We have to talk about the story of the week. Heck, it's so good, I'm going to declare it the story of the year. And that, of course, is the presidential debate on Thursday night US time, Friday morning our time. It was an absolute bloodbath for Joe Biden, who, to be honest, looked like he'd just been pulled out of the servo pie warmer at midnight after he'd been sitting there all day. Now, not that you need any reminding, but here are some of the highlights.
Wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare, the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
It doesn't matter how many times I watch it, it just gets better and better. Honestly, hook it into my veins. And the fallout has been incredible. Now, there's serious talk now about whether or not the Democrats replace him. There's speculation that Michelle Obama is being primed for the job. But his wife, Jill, her ex-husband, he's now come out and said that he thinks that she's pushing him to run for re-election because she wants to be president herself. and just while we're on Jill, take a look.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts.
Oh my God. Claire, you and I were texting during the debate on Friday, like, what on earth are we watching?
I wasn't surprised by his performance because we've been watching it unravel
by the way.
for 18 months. I mean, it was shocking and confronting, but I wasn't. I'm like, this is what we've been seeing. So I don't know. I think there's a whole heap of Americans, and certainly outside of America, that either aren't engaged or live in an echo chamber and aren't seeing. But this is what we've been seeing. I think, the thing with this debate is that it has signalled the end to the gaslighting of Americans, really. I mean, by the Democrat Party and by their media, to be able to keep up the charade of he's fine, he's very sharp behind closed doors, and which I've always thought is a really ridiculous argument, because as the leader of the free world, don't we want them also sharp on the stage, like while China's watching?
The most interesting part about this, based on what you just said, is Americans haven't been allowed to say this, because if you look at CNN, right, which is, let's not even go there, but don't ever take their advice on anything.
Well,
but CNN have said a week ago that he's sharp, that it's deep fakes, that the media's lying about him having dementia and stuttering and not knowing where he is and eating ice creams and whatever else he does. And then
no knock on ice cream.
And then 7 days later, they're all backpedaling and going, oh wow, poor Joe, this is bad. And it's like, 1 minute the media's like, you're not allowed to say it. The next minute you're allowed to say it.
And it was immediate.
Yeah.
Right after the debate finished.
It was amazing to watch that response. They all in unison were like, we just watched the guy get bodied, Sam, and it can't go on like this anymore. And part of me wonders, why would you send a guy like Joe Biden in the state that he's in, knowing the state that he's in, to a debate this early in the campaign, unless it was perhaps a tactic to actually embarrass him in front of the world, and then you've got the bullet you can use to get rid of him and replace him?
Well, it's a very Machiavellian theory, and maybe it's true, I don't know. I think the thinking was they realised it was going to be bad and they wanted to get it out of the public consciousness as fast as possible.
But there's another one coming in September.
Well, let's see if it ends up happening. But seriously, debates like this fall apart, for a whole pile of different reasons. And why would you let this go on? For the same reason that I think he's going to end up being the Democrats' candidate at the election, because he's snookered. Because if he pulls out, the most logical person, you can get all these flights of fancy about Michelle Obama and whoever else. The most logical person to take his role as the Democratic candidate is Kamala Harris. And she's less popular than he is, even in his current state. Yeah. And they know this. The polling on that is very, very clear. So, I think the current thinking is keep pushing him out there and hope that he comes good.
But he can't. He can't, Joe. He cannot win the election.
Yeah, I don't think that's right. I think a lot of people were sort of gaslit after, like, you know, if they get the sort of dosage just right and they time it just right, he can be okay with the teleprompter.
He was the next morning.
That's right. The next morning he seemed fine.
And they're like, oh, the medics are like, oh, darn it, we got 24 hours.
He was using a teleprompter then. Of course, you can't do that in a debate. In the State of the Union, everyone was surprised at how well he did. But again, he's using a teleprompter. So
when he doesn't read the actual instructions on the teleprompter.
which he also has done.
End quote.
It's a staggering thing. Mine on it from a Labor strategist here who was explaining it to me is that when, unlike the Labor Party or Liberal Party structures here in Australia, there's not really that much of a clear delineation of power between the party structure and the government structure, or what the parliamentary structure in our case. And so basically, once a Democratic nominee wins the presidential election, all the power of the party basically flows to the White House. And so the real problem is that Biden just can't be blasted out of there. Now, whether or not Jill's whispering in his ear, I don't know. Whether or not he's deluded or not. Well, Obama is said to be the only person who can convince him to go. And David Axelrod, Obama's chief strategist, has already basically said.
So interestingly, in 2016, the party did put in rules into their platform to have a candidate removed for cognitive function because of all the rumours about Hillary Clinton not being.
I think it's like the 20th.
Yeah, so they inserted this rule in that does allow them, in much the same way that a president can be removed by his cabinet, that I don't know who the voting body is that will allow that, but there is a clause that can be invoked, whether or not they do it and whether or not the convention...
Do you think Barack Obama, with his sway... I mean, obviously there's no point blasting him out of the whole just to replace him with Kamala or Gavin Newsom, which would be probably just as bad as each other. But surely, if they were going to go nuclear on this, they would have to put in Michelle Obama because only a sort of jaw-dropping OMG kind of move.
Well, think about what Trump's campaign